Okay, everyone. Hello from Los Angeles. It's 10 a.m. here Pacific time. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our information session today. I'm going to go ahead and just give a short few slides, and I'm going to allow some time for all of you to ask any questions that you may have. Okay, so my name is Camelia Lee. I oversee graduate admission here at the School of Engineering, and I appreciate your interest in our graduate programs. I'm going to go ahead and just get started here and then talk a little bit about our programs and what we are offering. If you can do me a favor, it is myself today, and I do have one colleague with me, William, and we'll answer your questions towards the end. And so if you can hold your questions for me, I would appreciate that, because some of the questions that you may have will be answered during the course of these slides. So if you could do that for me, I would greatly appreciate that. The second thing is there's a lot of questions about application fee waivers. Please know that we're not in a great position to be offering application fee waivers this cycle. Okay, so just I wanted to kind of get that out because I know a lot of people are asking. Okay, so if you can, as I said, hold your questions for me. I won't be able to answer them until the end, but if you can hold on to those, I'm going to probably answer many of the questions that you may have. Okay, so a little bit about USC. Many of you probably already know this. We're located in Los Angeles. We're a private research university. We have 22 academic schools and divisions here at USC, and that's important because engineering and our leadership here, our dean really is an advocate for interdisciplinary education and how engineering cuts across many other disciplines. So you'll find that here, if you decide to apply and enroll here, you'll see that we have a lot of collaborations with the School of Business, Communications, Public Policy, Education, School of Medicine. Okay, we have a really diverse student population here with students from about 110 countries. A really diverse student population, as I mentioned, and students in engineering specifically, we get applicants from over 70 countries worldwide. Okay, a little bit about our academic departments. So when you apply for a graduate program, whether it's a master's or a PhD, you can decide whether you want to either specialize or diversify. So if you are interested in computer science, we accept students that are primarily from computer science. But then if you are a mathematics major that perhaps minored in computer science, or if you're an electrical engineering major, we do have programs and pathways for you to do that. I see a lot of mechanical engineers or students that studied mechanical engineering as their bachelor's go into civil engineering or electrical engineering. So think about what path you want to pursue in that area. Okay, so I'll go right to it. So I'm going to cover both the master's and the PhD programs. The master's programs here at USC are designed to enhance your expertise in a specific discipline. It's designed to apply your education to working in industry. And when I say that, I mean that our programs are course-based programs. So they are not designed as kind of a stepping stone to the PhD program. The master's program does not require any research. You just need to complete the required courses with the appropriate acceptable GPA. Okay, so usually most of our master's programs take about 1.5 to 2 years to complete. It's about 7 courses, anywhere from 7 to 11 courses, depending on the program. So if you're looking at computer science, that takes 7. If you're looking at something like biomedical engineering or petroleum, that takes a couple more. In our master's program, as I said, it's a course-based program, but some students say, oh, if I apply for a master's program there and I decide I really like research, can I, apply for a PhD? And you can certainly do that. So I have seen over the years, many students come and then they started as a master's student, but perhaps they took a course from a professor they particularly liked, and they approach the professor and they say, hey, I'm really interested in your research. Do you think that you might accept an application for me to be a PhD student next year? And if there's a good match, then I do see that happening, but that would be up to the student to kind of initiate that kind of thing. Okay. Oops. So in order to be eligible for our master's programs, you need to have a bachelor's degree in engineering, math, or computer science, or one of the hard sciences. So we do take students from physics, geology, chemistry, biology. You just need to make sure you have the appropriate kind of preparation for the program that you're applying for. There is an online application and there's a $90 application fee. Now, the application fee will actually cover 2 programs if you decide to apply for 2 programs within the School of Engineering. So I do see students that sometimes want to apply for a PhD and a master's program, or maybe if you're a mechanical engineer, like the example I used, and you want to apply for civil engineering and a mechanical engineering master's program, you can certainly do that too. So that $90 application fee will cover 2 programs if you decide to apply for 2 here. You need to send official transcripts. That should be an official copy. That's you take a scan of that and you upload that into your application. If you have a resume or CV, you'll need to attach that as well. And you'll need to kind of, in the resume or CV, I definitely recommend that in that you really list all of the experiences that you have related to applying for a graduate program. You really want to illustrate any skills you have, especially outside experiences. If you took a class online, you took another class in any kind of coding or mathematics or anything else that maybe your transcripts don't say, it's a good idea to include that. Internships that you've taken on, any other experiences that are related to that the admissions office would take into consideration for you to be admitted. Okay, a personal statement for the master's program is required as well. And so for the personal statement, what I suggest is that should be anywhere from 1 to 2 pages. It should clearly outline what your academic goals are, the unique qualities that you would add to the USC community, what your kind of career goals are, and really kind of illustrate any situations or any experiences that you think all of your other materials don't say. Okay, so we do see some personal statements that say, you know, in my first year of college, I didn't do that well because I was working full-time and I was taking care of a family member. And so sometimes some of those things, you know, when you help the graduate admission committee understand your circumstances, at the end of the day, what they want to do is they want to look at all of your materials and make a decision on whether you will be able to successfully complete that master's program that you're applying for. Okay, so think about that as you prepare those application materials. The letters of recommendation, sorry, I didn't mention that one yet, but letters of recommendation are something that you should, if you're going to apply for the next fall, you should definitely be contacting your recommenders now. Not all of our programs require letters of recommendation, so there's only a handful that do. And certainly if you have letters of recommendation that are compelling, that you feel like would really enhance your application of somebody that can really speak about your abilities, then you are very welcome to submit those, even if your program doesn't require them. Okay, the GRE is not required for our master's or PhD programs this year. And please note that do not actually send your scores to SC. I do not encourage students to go through the effort of sending those official scores to us because they won't be looked at. So you can, some students have asked me, does it help if I took the GRE? And technically, because we have not made it not a requirement, that's why I say we won't be looking at them. You could, if you wanted to, you could mention it in your CV, but please, don't go through the effort of sending the scores. Okay, because it's not going to be a big factor. So you just need to make sure all of the other parts of your application are as solid as you can make it. Okay, so any students, the last requirement I'll say is for the master's is that if you are an international student, if you did not complete your bachelor's degree at an institution where the primary language was English, then you would need to take the TOEFL or the IELTS. The TOEFL score, the minimum score there, in order to not take any more English requirements if you get admitted, is 90 on the TOEFL and 20 on each section. And then the IELTS is 6.5 with 6 on each section. So we take that into account, but then it's not a criteria for admission. It's more that If you, in the best case scenario, if you were to get admitted, then and you enroll at USC, if you don't have those minimum scores, the university will make you take an English language exam. And if you don't pass the English language exam, they'll make you take English courses. So we're trying to encourage people really try to strive to get those scores, those minimum scores on the TOEFL or the IELTS, so that you don't have to take additional English courses when if you get admitted and come here. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Summer research experience, I won't spend too much time talking about this one, but anybody interested, you have to be kind of a second or third year student at your university, and also attending a US university and also a US citizen. So if you want to get some good research experience during the summer, if you want to use that to kind of enhance your application for a PhD program later and just get some research experience, definitely let me know, and I'm happy to kind of talk further about that. Okay, so the PhD program, and why I kind of use that as sort of a segue is, you know, the PhD program is something that is a little different. So one of the primary criteria for the PhD program is that you do have research experience, kind of like what I had just spoken about. You don't have to have published in a journal. You don't have to have done that to that extent. But a PhD applicant should definitely have had research experience. So whether it's something like what a summer program like I had just spoken about, whether you're working in a lab, or whether you're doing a research project as kind of a thesis with a professor, those are the kind of experiences that we're looking for. Our PhD programs, as you can imagine, it takes about 5 to 6 years to complete. You don't have to have a master's degree in order to apply for the PhD program. We do see a lot of people applying directly after they earn their bachelor's. Many of our students do have a master's degree who apply for the PhD program, but it's not required. But it's basically because lots of times that's where in the master's program, that's where they've gotten the research experience somewhere else. Okay, USC aims to fully fund our PhD students. So basically we won't admit any student to the PhD program if we cannot fund them. Okay, admission decisions are made by faculty committee. And one of the primary factors in admitting an applicant is that it's the match between you and the professor that you're hoping to work with. And then, so the first step, what I would say is, you know, do some of your homework and check out all the research areas that are happening here in the School of Engineering. And that's for USC or for anywhere else that you're going to apply. Make sure that they have the research that you're interested in. And then what you would do is, at USC anyway, what you would do is in your personal statement, you would detail the professors that you're interested in working with and how you would contribute to his or her lab. And that's what you would put in your personal statement. Okay, so here you can see that the application criteria is very similar to that of the master's programs. However, with the supplemental materials, so if you look at items, item 5 and 6, the supplemental materials like the personal statement is what I just spoke about. The personal statement should be about 2 pages. Identify 1 or 2 professors that you might want to work with here at USC and really describe your research interests, why that person's research interests or research area interests you, what you can contribute to their research group and their lab. Okay, so that's my guidance there for the personal statement. The 3 letters of recommendation should come from academic sources. So they should come from professors primarily. If you have one that is from somebody who supervised you at an internship that's relevant to this area and that can speak in depth about your ability, then you are welcome to submit those as well. But they should mostly be from academic sources. Okay, you need to be able to demonstrate that you have done research. So all of the things that you submit need to demonstrate that you, your letters of recommendation should say that. They should discuss, hopefully somebody can discuss that you have worked with them on a project of some kind in your CV. If you want to submit an abstract of a paper or something that you have done, you can do that as well. Okay, so as I said earlier, the GRE is not required, and the TOEFL or the IELTS also applies there as well. Okay, so application deadlines. So for the master's programs, we accept students for both the fall and the spring semesters. So right now we're accepting applications for the fall of 2024. And the PhD is only, the only application cycle for PhD is the fall. So both of those, if those are what you're thinking about, the deadline for both the master's and PhD for fall of 2024. is December the 15th. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about our scholarships. So how the scholarship process works is this, it's very straightforward. So if you apply for admission by December the 15th for the master's programs, if you're admitted, you will automatically be moved forward to the scholarship committee to be identified for any scholarships that are available and that are eligible for, that you're eligible for, I should say. Okay, so there isn't any supplemental application, but you would be notified in the spring semester, which is somewhere between January and April, if you are eligible for any scholarships. So my best advice to you is make sure that you submit your application for admission on time, well before December the 15th. If your application comes in 1 minute after December the 15th, then we actually can't consider you. So please make sure you do that. I do, sometimes the December 15th has fallen on a weekend, and sometimes I'll get emails from students frantically saying that their internet went down or whatever the case. And, they waited until literally the last possible moment to submit it. So there's not really a lot of things I can do about that. Okay, here's an example of one scholarship that we do offer. It's the Meta Center for Research and Education in AI. It's for students that are interested in electrical and computer engineering or industrial and systems. You do need to be a US citizen for this one, but this is just kind of an example of one that we do offer. So we offer funds from both the School of Engineering and also from external donors. So that's just to kind of give you an example of that. Okay, we do offer a lot of other ones. There is one being offered by the Information Sciences Institute, and that's open to both international students and US citizens. And then it offers you the chance to work in their research center and receive a scholarship as well. Okay, so there's a lot of variety of those, but my message to you is what you should really do is just make sure you get your application in on time. And if you're identified as a candidate, you'll be contacted, and then they may ask you for some supplemental materials. Okay, so I'm going to kind of wrap up my last couple of slides here. But one thing that you may consider if you are weighing between doing your graduate program or applying for graduate school and working, there is a great program here that we've been offering for many years. And even well before the pandemic, we actually started remote education in the 70s. I think it was 1972. So you can actually earn your master's degree while you're working full time. And one of the benefits of that too is many of our students who are working, their company is actually helping with tuition assistance, and then they take the program part-time. The only other thing to think about is you do earn the degree, you have to take more time to earn the degree. Most of our working professionals take about 3 years. Whereas if you were doing the program full-time on campus, it would take you about 1.5 years. So just think about that, and you can feel free to ask me any questions. We have a great student ambassador program. I think we have about 30 student ambassadors right now that are enrolled in many of our different programs. So if you had questions for them about what it's like, student life at USC or what the courses are like, then I welcome you to contact any one of our wonderful ambassadors here. Okay, for those of you that might be in the United States, I'm happy to welcome you to our visitation day on campus, which is November the 3rd. The October 13th open house has already passed, but we do have a number of open houses also during the year as well. Okay, so I promised you I was going to leave time for questions. So I just want to kind of help everyone have a good management of time. So I have my colleague here, William, who will help me a little bit with the Q&A. I'm going to answer some of the questions verbally so that everybody can benefit from hearing all of the answers. At about 10:45, then William is going to kind of take over for me. And then, but I'm going to answer as many questions as I can. Please forgive me if I'm not able to get to all of them, but I'm going to go ahead and just get started now. Okay, so let me see here. So are admissions done on a rolling basis? So that's a good question. So they are not. So our admission decisions are made after the application deadline. So the best thing you can do, so submit your application as soon as you feel confident about it and that it's ready. But how you can benefit from that is that our staff can begin preparing your application and making sure all the materials are there and everything, because believe it or not, there's a good majority of students that sometimes the materials are not adequate, or there's a question that the admissions staff has, maybe there's a transcript that's missing or something like that. So it gives them time to make sure that they tell you in advance if there's something that, is missing. So that's how you can benefit from submitting your application a little bit, on the earlier side, so that they can start prepping your application. But the admission decisions are not done before the application deadline. Okay. All right. Do you accept Duolingo English test? I don't believe we do that. I think that there were talks of doing that sometime in the future, but as of right now, that's not something that we accept. Okay. Ideal word count for the personal statement. I don't think, so in the School of Engineering, we don't have a word count, but I would say in general, it's about, for the master's, it's about 1 page to 2 pages at the most. I'm not going to go into the details of, double spaced or font size or things like that, but, we look for quality. You don't need to spend time talking about how when you were 2 years old, you wanted to be an engineer because you were building Legos, because really the admission committee does not care about that. You should really spend time talking about something that's qualitative. Okay. So for the PhD though, you do need it's the same thing, about 2 pages, but you do need to make sure you're concise, that you talk about what I mentioned, just, your research interests and that of the professors you're interested in. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Can you submit 4 letters of recommendation? I believe you can. I haven't checked the application letters of recommendation portal recently, but I believe you can. Just make sure that those letters of recommendations are ones from people that can speak about your ability in depth. If you have 4 and each of those professors say, yeah, this person was in my class, she got all A's, and then that's it, then it really doesn't do you any good to have 4. So just make sure the ones that you submit. But if you have questions about that, or if you encounter problems, then let me know. But I think that the portal does allow you to submit more than 3. Okay. Okay, Alan is asking on the master's application, I couldn't find my major, which is data science. Oh, I have the option of filling in other. I think you're referring to your undergraduate major, if I'm not mistaken. I worry this will not show and would weaken my application as I have no place to list it. So that's a very good question, Alan. So what you would do is, yeah, if you cannot find that, that application process, unfortunately, they have to fill in thousands of different majors. So if you can't find it, put in other, but what happens is our staff actually takes your transcript. They look at it very, very thoroughly. So what you would do is, just make sure that your transcripts, your official transcripts are there. And that's the best you can do. So I wouldn't worry about that. It's not kind of going to automatically be dismissed in that way. And so because our staff takes a very close look at your application materials. Okay, so I hope that helps. Okay, so Tamara's asking, my bachelor is not in a STEM field, but my master's degree is, and would that make me eligible to apply? So yeah, that is kind of it would require you to tell me some more details. You can put them here and I can spend a couple of minutes talking about it if you want to, Tamar, but I would have to say it depends. So if your bachelor's degree is in, for example, biology, and your master's degree is in biomedical engineering, and you wanted to apply for a PhD in biomedical engineering, that would probably be fine. So, but we do look at your undergraduate degree. And it just depends what program you're applying for. Okay, so you can contact me separately. I don't know if maybe William, if you want to put our contact information in the chat, you can, of course, contact us separately. Okay, somebody's asking here, is there a minimum requirement of GPA for the PhD application? So there isn't a minimum requirement, but I would say if you're anywhere below 3.0, and 3.0 is actually kind of on the lower side in terms of the average GPA. So in terms of PhD applicants, I would say if your GPA is the equivalent of about 3.3, 3.4 and above, then I would suggest that you apply. But if it's well below that, it might be a challenge for you to get admitted. Okay. Somebody is asking, given that the master's program is course-based, does this imply it's challenging to obtain funding? So one doesn't have to do with the other. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have some scholarships available. They are partial scholarships. So for our master's applicants, generally they come in with outside funding. They are self-funded. Some of them work full-time, but our scholarships most of them are partial. Okay, but the course-based part and the scholarships does not have anything to do with the other. Okay, India, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Sorry if I'm not. I will be completing an MS in EE from the University of Notre Dame on May 24th. Do I have to provide an English proficiency score? Okay, so for yourself, yeah. So here's the thing that I'll tell you on a personal level. I have been kind of in a debate with the university for about a year, and I'm trying to get that fixed. But if your bachelor's degree is from a region that the language of instruction was in English, USC for a long time has still made you take the TOEFL exam, even if you have a master's from the United States. So what I would suggest to you, the last name looks like Sundar Jana. What I would suggest to you is you can submit your application. You can contact me separately. Let me put my information in the chat. You can submit your application, and what I will do is then when you submit it, someone on my staff will go to the university and ask for your English language to be waived. Okay, so I'm presuming possibly that if your bachelor's was not from the United States and then your master's is, that is a situation where we can go to the university and ask for your English language to be waived. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Okay, Mohammed is asking, recently I took the TOEFL and I got a 94. Okay, yeah, so so for the master's it's 90. For the TOEFL, for the PhD, because the PhD students sometimes they are TAs, they do want a higher TOEFL score. Okay, so you do, if you are applying for a PhD program, you do need to strive for a higher score there, or you'll take the English language exam. Okay, the English language exam, I will tell you, I mean, you know, English is not my first language, but I did not ever have to take the TOEFL exam. But what from I understand from students is that the English language exam at USC is not that easy. And so when you take it, usually you'll have to take an English language exam after. So what I would suggest to you, Mohammed, if you have the time, and you can retake the TOEFL and try to get 100, you won't have to take that English language exam. But if you do, they will likely assign you an English language course. But the nice thing I thought that the engineering school has done is they negotiated with the university saying, we don't want our students taking more than one English language course if they did not pass that English exam. Okay, so at most you would take one. Okay, Stephen, what can one expect during the preview day? Oh, so the preview day, so this is our 15th or 16th year doing the preview day, and it's our visitation day where you'll be able to come to campus, meet the departments, meet faculty members and students, get a little bit of a feel of the campus. And I always say that I believe that students that are able to come to that event, I think you get a good feel of whether you think you want to apply there and whether you think you want to enroll there. So I would encourage you to apply. It's in a couple of weeks, not apply, but register to attend. Okay. All right. The next question, I'm interested in the ECE master's program. AI is one of the topics, but I have many interests. Do you offer other scholarships other than the USC Meta Fellowship? We do. So definitely make sure, as I said, apply for admission by December the 15th. There are other scholarships that are provided to us by the School of Engineering. So we're going to just try our best to be able to help you be eligible for as many as possible if you are admitted. Okay. I noticed Aviad is asking, I noticed for the master's program, there's a requirement for specific courses, and I was wondering if those apply for the PhD as well, and if for both, it is possible to be considered for admission under the condition of taking those at USC. Okay, I think I might have to ask you to clarify that one for me, either here or separately. I'm wondering if you're asking about prerequisites, but I might have to ask you to clarify that one for me a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay, Encore is asking on the website, there's one pre-application in electrical engineering. Okay, I think you might have to tell me what that pre-application is. I don't know what that is actually. So that might be something different. They might be asking you for something else. But for application for admission, it only goes through one route, and that's the application for admission. Okay. Are US citizens or permanent residents preferred in any way over international students for PhD funding? No. Guna is asking, can you apply to multiple tracks for the CS master's program? That's a really good question. So I personally would not do that. So what happens is students apply for the master's in general in computer science, and then the master's in CS with the specialization in cybersecurity or security or something. I wouldn't do that because the chances are, so if you get admitted to one, then you would be eligible for both. But what we have found is that they are starting to slowly close the specializations. But with the general program, what you can do is you can select all the electives that you want. So most students that go into the specialized program, they end up changing to the general program because there's a lot more flexibility in the courses. So that's what I would recommend to you. I probably wouldn't apply. I would apply for just the general master's in CS. And then if you go there and then you get admitted and you decide you want to change and specialize, you can certainly do that. And that's not a problem at all. But I wouldn't go through the effort of applying for both. Okay, Pranav is asking, can an admit be deferred for next year? Okay, so we do offer the opportunity to request deferral. It is not always guaranteed, but for the most part, we can do that. However, we do suggest that you really only apply for the term that you really want to enroll in. So we do consider deferral requests for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's medical, sometimes a person got a job offer, that kind of thing. As long as things in your academic background don't change, then you should have a pretty good chance of being deferred. But again, I can't kind of guarantee that for everyone. Okay, so yes, we do offer that opportunity to request deferral. Okay, Farheen is asking the research areas on your slide. Okay, so definitely that slide is just kind of a general overview, Farheen. So the best place to look is on the website. So yeah, just please understand that's kind of just to give people a general idea of the areas that are the research areas. Okay, Ariyaman, is it easy to switch back and forth from MSCS specialization? No, it isn't. So you need to apply for one program and you need to stay in that program. We do not allow you to switch. You can choose electives, that's for sure. But I would apply for the master's, the general master's program, and then you can choose all the electives that you want. Okay, but yeah, it doesn't make sense to apply for two, as I mentioned to the earlier person. Does admission require an external evaluation for transcripts? Andrew, yes, it does, but not at the time of application. So you need to submit your transcripts at that time. They need to be officially generated from the university, from your registrar's office or whatever. And then if students are not, if it is from a transcript from a university that's not in the US, then later, if you're admitted, the university will ask you to kind of go through degree verification later. Okay, Mustafa is asking, does the university, particularly chemical engineering, have industrial collaborations for PhD candidates? Yeah, they definitely do. Mustafa, I regret I don't have a ton of details on that, but definitely I think that one of the strengths of the School of Engineering is they have a lot of collaborations with external organizations, whether it's research organizations or corporate. But yeah, there's definitely that. And you can contact us separately. What I would probably do is, really kind of look into those professors you're interested in and look at their research web pages, and you'll probably find some good answers there. Okay. Is it good if the personal statement or for the master's program is research oriented? You can do that. I'm not sure how much though. I would spend some time talking about that because obviously that lends to your experience. Yeah, so that's okay. Okay. Priscilla's asking, do first class honors make an application stand out? And anything that you have that really demonstrate that you were a strong student, by all means, you should definitely make sure you put that in your resume or your CV. Okay. Someone is asking, can you explain a little about those who are transferring from other US universities? Okay, that one is a little bit tricky. So if you're transferring, I would have to probably take that one offline. So transferring has to do with, it depends on the academic discipline you're applying for. It depends on how much you've already completed at the other university. Not everything is going to transfer. Students that have already completed a lot of their coursework at the other university, I usually don't recommend that they transfer. Okay. So I'm going to ask William, some of you are asking about whether you're exempt from English language proficiency, and I'm going to ask William to put in the chat the English language proficiency website. So I'm going to ask just so I can make sure I answer questions here that are not available online. If William, you could do that for me, put the English language proficiency website. I would encourage you all to look at that first. And that would be helpful for me. Thank you.
Yes. I'll also add, if I may, the country requirements based on country of study to determine what's required as well.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Okay. If you're applying to master's programs, do you need to mention the professors you would like to work with? Okay, so that's a question from Jeffrey. No, you don't have to do that for master's programs. Okay, I'm gonna earlier for those of you that joined late, I did mention to everybody that we're not in a position to offer application fee waivers at this time. So I hope you can understand that. I hope you still are able to apply. Okay. Here's the next question. You mentioned we can apply for 2 programs on the same fee. If we opt for that, we will have to submit 2 different personal statements and LORs. You should. It depends what you're applying for. If you're applying for a PhD and a master's program, those materials should obviously be very different. You should not necessarily repurpose for the both, especially if there's things that are specific about the one program. So for example, I've gotten things that personal statements and things like that that say, I would really like to attend the University of Michigan. So it was very obvious that somebody just copied, their application from University of Michigan, which is a fantastic school, by the way. But, you need to just make sure you're adjusting it accordingly. So they don't have to be dramatically different, but just make sure that, it is applicable to the program you're applying for. Okay. Okay, so it's not necessary to contact a professor before applying to a PhD program. Most of our applicants don't do that. But just make sure, as I said, in your personal statement, you really show a knowledge of their research and why you would be a good contributor to their research. We don't have a minimum GPA requirement for the master's in computer science, but I'll tell you that is the computer science program is extremely competitive, as you would imagine. If you do not have something well over the equivalent of a 3.0, on a 4.0 scale, I would say that it might be challenging for you to get admitted. Okay. Okay, so I answered a lot of these questions about the PhD and contacting the professor. I did mention this earlier about the GRE scores. I wouldn't bother sending those. We're not looking at that. If I need to take prereqs, should I take them at USC or take them elsewhere? And how can I show that I've completed them? Yeah, you don't have to take them at USC. In fact, I would recommend that you take them elsewhere. So just, be aware of what those requirements are to make sure that you're taking the right one. So Natalia, you may want to contact us separately so that we make sure that we kind of guide you so that you're not taking a course that is not applicable. So you can feel free to contact us, and then William can put the contact information in the chat. Okay, somebody's asking, this is a good question. Is an application not considered at all if a TOEFL score is below the minimum requirement? So no. So your application will be considered regardless of your TOEFL score. Now, you need to try to really get as up to that minimum score as you can. I would say that, for example, if your score is very low, okay, and we're reviewing the admission, you can understand that from our perspective, as we're looking at these materials, if your TOEFL score is very low, then we would say, this person, while this person may be a very good student in their academics, how is that person going to be successful in the program if he or she does not demonstrate a mastery of English? Okay, so you're not going to be automatically disqualified or not considered, but I would really strive to get as close to that score as possible. Okay, so there's kind of a spectrum there. Okay. Aryaman Saha. I have an integrated bachelor's and master's, which is 5 years long. How do I split the years on the portal? So I'm going to ask you for that question. We're going to have to guide you on that one. So you should contact us separately on that. Okay. Okay. There's a question here about how many international students are usually taken in every year for PhD programs. So our admission rate is about overall is about 15% for PhD programs. I don't have a breakdown of international because that really varies year to year. And that depends on the program. Okay. For the PhD program, you mentioned admission decisions are contingent on a match between the applicant and the faculty. Does this mean that upon starting the program, the applicant would join one of the labs they noted in their statement? And is it hard to switch labs if a lab turns out not to be a good fit? So that's a pretty good question. So when you are applying for admission, I would say biomedical engineering is probably one of the exceptions because they do rotations. But for all of the other programs, when you're applying for a PhD program, you're actually applying to work with a specific professor. So yeah, so that should answer the first part of your question. Is it hard to switch labs? I don't know how hard it is, but I would say that obviously if it ends up not being a good fit for you, then you would apply to work in another lab or you would have some recourse after that. But that's why it's really a good idea to make sure. What I suggest is, the professor that you're interested in, try to get in touch with their PhD students and really, find out what's going on in their labs and get a good feel. And if you're admitted, really talk to that professor and just really, you're interviewing that person too. It's like any relationship, you're going to be in that relationship for 5 to 6 years. So definitely do your due diligence there. Okay. All right. I've got just a few more minutes for myself. I'm going to answer as many questions as I can. I'm going to turn it over to William also to kind of help you with some of these. But if I don't get to them, I apologize, and you can very much feel free to contact us separately, and I'm happy to make sure that your questions get answered. Okay. Unofficial transcripts, Obina, no. So we cannot make any decisions based on unofficial transcripts. So when I say unofficial, that means like if your university has a student portal that you can log in and print out a transcript, that is not one that we can make decisions on. They have to be university generated. Okay. Does admission require external evaluation? Okay, I think I answered that one. Okay, William, maybe you can answer this one later. I think it's somebody's asking about preview day.
Yep.
What is the best way to identify DACA status on the master's application? So that if admitted, international tuition is not considered. So if you have DACA status, make sure that you indicate that somewhere, either in your personal statement. I think in the online application, they do not ask that, but you do want to make sure that you identify that. And for this person, you can make sure to contact us, and then we'll make sure to look out for your application if that is the case, and then we'll make sure that on our side that it's indicated as such. Okay. I'm curious to know if the Master's in Computer Science, Scientists and Engineers program has admitted students with social science backgrounds. No. That is only designed for students with a bachelor's in engineering, but not necessarily computer science. So for example, there's a lot of applicants from electrical engineering that apply for that program. There's students that perhaps majored in math, but minored in computer science. Okay, so social science backgrounds. If you have a social science background, there's a program that maybe William can tell you about. It's called Communication Data Science. That's half courses in our School of Communications and half courses in engineering in the data science area. Okay, Sab-Arish, I have the same issue with the mode of instruction in spoken language. Okay, so no, so for India, yeah, you will need to take the English language exam. So yeah, you should check that English language proficiency website. Okay. Okay, so there's a few questions about English language proficiency. With respect to everybody here, I'm going to ask that you all look at that webpage, and that should answer your questions. If I plan to apply for the Master's in Engineering Master's program, and I've been out of school for 2 years, and I've been working in the automotive industry, is it required to get a recommendation letter from a professor, or better from managers or colleagues? let me think about this one. So if your program requires it, then yeah, if you want to get that from, don't get them from colleagues. You should get it from a supervisor if your program requires it. Okay, so this is what I'm presuming. So if it doesn't require letters of recommendation, you have a little more flexibility, but you need to be able to really think about getting them from somebody who can speak about your experiences in depth, speak about your qualities in depth. It's fine. We do have a lot of students that have been out of school for even 10 years that come back for the master's program. So it's best to get somebody from a supervisor, former supervisor. Yeah, and that's the best advice I can give you there. Okay. Will the school assist international students who gain admission to apply for external scholarships to fund their master's program? Priscilla, we don't have the infrastructure to do that, so it's really kind of the onus is sort of on you to be able to find external scholarships. We do have a web page that does direct students to all different types of external funding, and then maybe William can put that in the chat as well. But we actually don't have really that kind of system within USC. Okay. Okay, so Anchor, that website is from the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. I think what they're doing is they're doing some things to encourage PhD applicants. So that has nothing to do with admission. Okay, so you can feel free to fill that out, and that is the responsibility of the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department. I think they kind of want to identify PhD applicants on the earlier stages. Okay, but that's not an official application for admission. Okay. I'm interested in the master's in computer science, scientists and engineers. I was curious what you're looking for in an application. Okay, so if you apply for that program, the computer science, scientists and engineers, you do need to have a very strong quantitative background. Okay, so basically what that is you consider that kind of a bridge program. Okay, so that's taking students that did not have any background in computer science and then allowing you to enroll in a program that's basically the master's of computer science. So you really need to show as strong a quantitative ability as possible. If you have any knowledge of coding languages, if you've taken other courses elsewhere, you need to try to include as much of that as possible. Okay. Okay. Is there an ideal submission deadline for PhD applications? Not really, you just need to apply by the December 15th. They do start preparing files right after December 15th because that's and that begins our winter break. So that's when the faculty members start looking at that. Okay. All right. I'm going to do MOOCs count towards prerequisites? No, but if you have taken those kinds of courses and you want to indicate the knowledge that you have gained from that, by all means, you can include that on your CV, but that doesn't have a huge impact on admission. Like, for example, if like all of your coursework at your university does not allow you to be eligible to apply for the program you're applying for, and then you have this program that you took through the MOOC, it's not really going to help. But if you already have a solid background and you have that, then that will help. For PhD programs, will there be interviews? That depends on the department. Generally, that they don't do interviews before the admission process. If you're admitted, they invite you to come to campus, though. Does a higher GPA as compared to other applicants equal a higher chance of being selected? No. Our master's students also considered for TA and RA positions? No. So not on a general basis. That is not implemented in the system of the School of Engineering, but I have heard of master's students, depending on their department, they may ask a professor, hey, are you looking for a TA? Some of them will and some of them don't. So I can't kind of answer that broadly. Okay. So funding for master's programs, that seems to be a general question. So as I said, the funding is only in the form of scholarships. There are very little TA and RA opportunities here at USC in engineering. So the best advice I can give you is apply for it by the December 15th deadline, but with the understanding that those scholarships are partial. So none of our scholarships will cover, very few, I should say maybe the Meta scholarship will cover up to full funding, but that's for US citizens only. And so just be aware of that. And if you look on the webpage webpage. William can put our website in the chat. If you look at the webpage of the program you're interested in, have a good understanding of what the cost of attendance is going to be. Because just know that if you are selected for funding, it will probably only cover at most 30%. And that's at the most. Okay, so just please be aware of that. How would you recommend graduate applicants to stand out from a huge application pool? So your personality, we have wonderful students, but I think that what you would want to do is, I think this is what I can leave you with, is when you apply for admission, I don't have the benefit of having met all of you face to face. So when our staff reviews your application, what you want to do is put yourself in my situation where you say, all of the materials that you provide to me, how are you going to illustrate that you can successfully complete this program? And I'm talking more about the master's, because a PhD is something different. That has to be the professor's decision. But if you're going to submit an application to me, and I don't know you from anybody else, how are you going to demonstrate to me that you can complete successfully a master's program? And that's what you should think about. Okay, so it doesn't matter the quantity of things. You can send me 10 letters of recommendation, but if each one of them say, yeah, this person was a good student, she was in my class, she got B's, and that's it, those are not going to help you at all. So really put together the most compelling application package that you can. Really look at that. I always suggest, like I said, look at our ambassadors. You can talk to them, kind of talk about what they think about the programs and things like that, and just kind of get as much information as you can in that sense. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and leave you with that. I'm going to see if I can make William the host of this session now. William has been working with us here in the School of Engineering for over, I think, 10 years. So you will be in good hands with him. As I kind of, my last parting words for all of you, I do hope you can apply. I would love to see many of you get admitted here. I would suggest that if we didn't get to your questions, I do apologize. Contact us separately and we will make sure that we get a response to you as quickly as possible. But I really appreciate all of your interest. I will tell you on a personal level that I have worked at the university for many years, and this is a very rewarding role for me because I get to meet so many really talented students from all over the world. So I do hope we see your application. I'm going to turn it over to William now. I wish all of you a very good day. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Cami.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to kind of continue where Cami left off. What I want to do is continue to pull up the the Q&A. I've noticed a couple of questions about applying to multiple programs and whether you should submit multiple personal statements, letters of rec. You should, for each of the programs, it is recommended to specify keep your personal statement specific to the program that you're applying for, and state your interest in applying to each specific program. And letters of rec, that's really up to you. A lot of our programs don't require, and some do, so you can make that determination on your own. Okay, so in terms of let me try to find where Cami left off here. Do you have on-campus housing for graduate students? There's limited housing for graduate students, very limited. There's housing on campus. It is mainly for the undergraduate first and second year students, though. So most of our graduate students live just off of campus. There are thousands of apartments, and a lot of students actually find roommates and share apartments with each other. I definitely recommend contacting and asking questions. We have a great student ambassador program. I'm going to link in the chat directly to that list of student ambassadors. So they're current Viterbi students who are in the master's program. They've been in your shoes before and understand there's a lot of unknown and trying to make the best decision for their graduate program, and they chose Viterbi, and they just want to give back. They're awesome students. I definitely recommend reaching out if you have questions. You can even ask, like, how did you find housing? Did you get funding? How did you find funding? That kind of thing. While we don't have every program represented by our student ambassadors. We're constantly trying to add new ambassadors. So if you don't see your program listed, don't worry. We're still trying to add kind of as the semester goes on and as the next semester starts, continually add ambassadors to that. Even if you don't see your program listed, I still recommend you could still ask more general questions about their experience, how they found housing, things like that, because it still might benefit you to have that information. Okay. Let's see, what does PhD funding look like? So funding at the PhD level, it does vary. Typically, when a student is admitted, they will be sent information on the type of funding that they will be receiving initially. Usually the first year or two, it's some type of stipend. So it's actually determined after a student's been admitted, the type of funding that the PhD student will receive. So I sent the information on student ambassadors. Definitely check the chat area for that. I have an art background. I'm interested in the multimedia and creative technologies masters for CS. I would definitely recommend, if you're strictly art, that's going to be a challenge. You are going to need some type of some CS classes in your background, because our computer science programs are our most popular program for obvious reasons. It's kind of leading the charge technologically, and so we have a lot of applicants to our CS program, so it's a competitive application process. I don't want to completely deter you, but you will need to strengthen up courses in computer science, definitely. Will school assist international students who gain admission to master's program? Will the school? Oh, this question was already answered. Go to on our website. We have a tuition and funding section where we do our best to try to keep aware of external funding sources. Unfortunately, it's kind of impossible for us to monitor each of them actively. So the ones that do kind of cross our radar, we try to add to our website as often as possible. But do your own research as well in trying to find external funding. We tell students, don't just rely on trying to obtain one of our Viterbi scholarships, because they are hyper competitive, and they're not even full funding. So you definitely, if getting a scholarship and funding is something that you want to try to obtain, do some research and trying to find external scholarships. Okay, so how likely to get an admit? So I can't kind of evaluate admissibility. We're not allowed to do that for any of our programs. This question is related to masters in cybersecurity. You should have, as the website states, some type of engineering, math, computer science background at the bachelor's level. And then from there, in your personal statement, you can talk about any experiences or interest in the program, things of that nature. Okay. I want to apply to the Master of Science of Civil Engineering program with a focus on earthwork engineering. Do I need to get a potential supervisor before I can apply to this program? Also, do I qualify for funding as a prospective master's applicant? So if you apply by our December 15th deadline, all students will be considered for funding. You may or may not be selected to participate in an interview, so that's kind of the next step. But we do, if you apply by that December 15th deadline, you're at least considered. Now, in terms of finding a potential supervisor, our master's programs are completely course-based, so students are not required to do research in order to graduate. So we don't assign you, it's not required to find a faculty member that you would be assigned to, so to speak. That's more on the PhD side. You are going to want to find faculty that you're interested in working with. You're more than welcome, if you're applying to a PhD program, to reach out and contact faculty at the master's level, you really just need to go ahead and submit your application if you want to apply to one of our master's program. Contacting faculty really won't make a difference in applying to our master's program, because for our master's, our admission staff is doing the admitting, and they're going to be looking at your just application background. So as I mentioned, our master's programs are course-based, so research is not a requirement to graduate. However, we do have some students who do research, that's fine, during their master's program, but it doesn't necessarily apply toward their graduation. Some of those students end up wanting to pursue a PhD later, which that research can potentially help their competitiveness as a PhD candidate. So hopefully that makes some sense. So I'm going to stop the webinar now. I do thank you for joining. And again, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out. In the chat, I left our contact information. You can also, on our website, go through our contact steps to contact us and let us know if you have any additional questions. So thanks so much. I will be closing the webinar now. Have a wonderful day.